Hey there, ready for another deep dive? Today we're looking at news straight from the Faroe Islands. A real mix of stuff, from global headlines to local politics, even a bit of sports.
We'll be here to connect the dots, maybe offer some context, and of course, share some analysis along the way. So, what grabs your attention first?
Well, this conflict in Gaza is just huge right now. It sounds like a major shift. Israel's claiming they've targeted and maybe even killed Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar.
Oh, it's definitely significant. Sinwar, he's a complicated figure. Some call him the butcher, but to others, he's central to the Palestinian fight.
It's a lot to take in, especially with reports of casualties, on both sides.
Absolutely. And the situation is incredibly volatile. It's crucial to remember, though there's a lot of misinformation flying around, we have to be really careful about jumping to conclusions until we have a clearer picture of what truly transpired.
Good point. It's easy to get caught up in the headlines, right? But it also reminds us that this conflict has very real consequences for people on the ground.
Precisely. Speaking of different perspectives, we found a reader's letter from someone in the Faroe Islands expressing concern about how the media is covering the conflict.
Oh, really? What are they saying?
They called out KVF specifically, that's the Faroe's national broadcaster. Seems they're worried about bias and how the conflict's being presented.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even though the Faroe Islands are geographically pretty far removed from the conflict, this reader is showing how these global events, still resonate. They spark conversations, important ones, even in smaller communities.
It reminds us, doesn't it, that we all see these events through our own lenses, shaped by our experiences and, let's be honest, the media we consume.
Definitely food for thought. Now, switching gears completely, let's talk Faroes politics. There's a really interesting debate going on right now about Danish financial support for Faroes political parties.
Ah, yeah, that's been bubbling away for a while now. It really gets to the heart of the relationship between the Faroe Islands and Denmark, doesn't it?
Okay, break it down for us. What are the arguments on each side of this funding issue?
So, on the one hand, you've got those who say this financial support is crucial. They argue it's about keeping Faroe's democracy healthy, helping to level the playing field, and ensure smaller parties can still have a voice.
Makes sense. Resources can make or break political campaigns.
Absolutely. On the flip side, though, there are those who see this funding as a risk to Faroe's autonomy. They argue it creates a dependence on Denmark, you see, and that could potentially influence Faroe's politics.
So it's a fine line, right? Maintaining financial stability versus protecting independence.
Precisely. And it's not a debate that's going away anytime soon. It's something Faroe's voters and politicians will be wrestling with for a while, I'd say.
Definitely a complex situation with no easy solutions.
It really highlights how complicated these political and financial relationships can be in a globalized world, especially for places like the Faroe Islands striving for more autonomy.
It's fascinating to see these global themes playing out in such a specific local context.
Mm.
And speaking of local pride, I hear the Faroe Islands have been making a splash in the football world lately.
That's right. Their national team has been doing really well in the nation's League C, quite impressive.
And it's not just about national pride either, right? There's an economic angle to all this football success too, isn't there?
You bet there is. The Faroe Islands have been really actively promoting themselves as a tourist destination and their performance on the pitch. Well, that just plays right into that strategy.
I can see that everyone loves a winner after all. But what makes the Faroe Islands so special? Why should someone put it on their travel bucket list?
Picture this: dramatic cliffs, like plunging straight into the sea, charming little villages tucked away in fjords, landscapes that look like something straight out of a fantasy novel. That's the Faroe Islands for you.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And I bet those football matches draw a crowd too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a chance for tourists to really soak up that electric live match atmosphere, while experiencing the unique Faroes culture.
A win-win for sure. It's amazing how sport can do that, put a country on the map and boost the economy all at the same time. But on a different note, we came across a story about a politician, England D. Strum, and some potentially revealing documents. What's going on there?
It seems that KVF, the Faroes national broadcaster, has gotten hold of some documents that might shed some light on England Strom's dealings, and it's causing a bit of a stir, to say the least.
Ooh, a political thriller. What kind of documents are we talking about here?
That's just it. The details are still under wraps. There are rumors of misconduct, but nothing concrete has actually been released.
No wonder everyone's waiting with bated breath.
Yeah.
So what does England D. Strum have to say about all of this?
Well, they're calling for, well, a resolution. Or a special investigator, even, to be appointed. Clear their name or get to the bottom of it. That seems to be their stance.
High stakes all around. This will be interesting to watch unfold. Now, shifting gears to a different aspect of Faroe's life, we noticed an article about the cost of housing. What's the situation there?
Interesting one, this. So, the Faroe Islands have actually been enjoying a period of economic growth. But there are some worries about the long term sustainability of their public housing system, Booster.
That's a bit of a head scratcher. Why wouldn't economic prosperity translate into affordable housing?
Well, the Landsgrenskoenen, their auditing agency, is sounding the alarm bells. Seems the rental income from Booster is only covering something like 70% of its operating costs.
Ouch, that's a big gap. So what's the solution? They can't keep running out of laws, can they?
Exactly. They're going to have to look into alternative funding models. Those are always tricky conversations to have.
I can imagine. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with to balance the need for affordable housing with, well, responsible economic management.
Absolutely. It's a challenge faced by a lot of countries, not just the Faroe Islands. Speaking of challenges, there's a story here about a budget crunch hitting the music school in the Torshavnar Music Schoolie.
Oh no, not the music school. They always seem to be the first to go when budgets get tight. What's the situation there?
Yeah, it's a common story, unfortunately. Looks like they're facing funding cuts, which means tough choices about programs and staffing.
I can only imagine the impact that's having on the students, the parents, the faculty.
It's significant. Music and the arts, they're such a vital part of a well-rounded education.
Couldn't agree more. It's not just about, you know, learning an instrument or how to paint a picture. It's about fostering creativity, critical thinking, self-expression.
Exactly. All those skills, they're essential for any career path, not just artistic ones. Let's hope they find a way to keep those programs going.
Fingers crossed. Now, on to a different kind of cultural institution. We read that the Choosavni, the National Museum of the Faroe Islands, is on the hunt for a new director.
That's right. The previous director is moving on to other things, it seems.
Sounds like a dream job for the right person.
Yeah.
I mean, leading a national museum, being immersed in history and culture.
Oh, I'd imagine. Whoever gets the job will need to be passionate about preserving the past, for sure. But also forward-thinking, capable of engaging new audiences in our digital world.
It's a big ask. But what an opportunity to really shape the way people connect with Faroe's heritage.
Speaking of connecting with heritage, how about the story of that recent pilot whale sighting? It really highlights the Faroe Islands' unique relationship with the natural world, don't you think?
Pilot whales, those are the incredibly social, intelligent ones, right?
The very same. And we're not talking a quick glimpse of a fin here. This was a whole pod spotted right there in the harbor.
Wow, that must have been something else to see.
Quite a sight, I'd say. It really speaks to that close connection, between the Faroese people and the ocean that surrounds them.
A good reminder that we're all part of this amazing natural world, even if we don't always get those up-close and personal encounters. Now, on a completely different note, we notice an article about executive compensation that's raised a few eyebrows. What can you tell us about that?
Yes. It seems there's some controversy swirling around the former CEO of Posta, that's the Faroes Postal Service.
What happened? Was there some kind of scandal?
Not quite a scandal, but definitely a head scratcher. The CEO resigned completely voluntarily, but now there are questions about a possible hefty severance package, bonuses, that kind of thing.
Ah, the classic golden parachute debate. What's the public reaction been?
It's divided, as you might expect. Some say, hey, a deal's a deal. The former CEO is entitled to whatever was agreed upon. But others think it's just not right. A public official receiving such a big payout, especially after a voluntary resignation.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? You want to honor agreements, avoid legal battles, but there's also the issue of public perception and making sure taxpayer money is being used responsibly.
Precisely. There are strong arguments on both sides, for sure.
Something for the Faroes people to think about then. Now, going from postal woes to something a little sweeter, we came across a story about a local delicacy, sirupskukur. What can you tell us about this treat?
Sirupskukker. It's a real Faroes favorite, basically. Syrup cookies, often made with brown sugar, butter, and spices.
Oh, they sound delicious. Are they a special occasion kind of treat?
Not necessarily. They're pretty common, actually perfect with a coffee or tea. But they often make an appearance during holidays and celebrations, too.
I can see why. Those simple classic flavors, they just evoke a sense of warmth and tradition, don't they?
Exactly. Sometimes the simplest recipes are the ones that endure.
Speaking of enduring, let's talk about the Faroe Islands' love for the outdoors. We read that cycling is becoming more and more popular as a way to, really experience the island's beauty.
It's true. The Faroe Islands, they actually offer a surprising range of cycling routes, something for everyone, from leisurely rides to, challenging climbs for experienced cyclists.
The views must be incredible from up there on a bike. And it's great that they're embracing sustainable tourism like that.
Absolutely. Cycling allows visitors to enjoy those stunning landscapes at their own pace while minimizing their impact on the environment.
Everyone wins. Now, we can't talk about the Faroe Islands without mentioning their vibrant literary scene. Anything in particular that caught your eye?
Well, author John Millamar has just come out with a new book titled Skakandi Tilburyr 18. That's Shocking Incidents 18 in English.
Shocking incidents. Now, that's a title that grabs your attention. What sort of stories are we talking about here?
It's a collection of 13 true stories from all over the world, each one more bizarre and unbelievable than the last. Think unexplained phenomena, strange encounters, all that good stuff.
Sounds like a real page turner. I do love a good dose of the unexpected.
Then you'll definitely want to check out Skakandi Tilburyr 18.
I've added it to my list.
Right.
Now, switching gears a bit, we saw an article about the high demand for Surnaamsverdeligur Ragejevi. What exactly is that?
It translates to Special Educational Needs Counselor. They played a really crucial role in supporting students with learning disabilities, making sure they have access to the right resources and support to really thrive.
That's such important work. These counselors are like advocates for these students who might struggle to have their needs met otherwise.
100%. And that high demand for their services, it really reflects a growing understanding of just how important inclusive education is. It's about making sure all students, no matter their abilities, get the chance to succeed.
I love that. It's a great reminder that we all learn differently, and when you create a supportive and inclusive learning environment, everyone benefits.
Precisely. And speaking of support and collaboration, did you see that the Faroe Islands U19 football team is getting ready for a big competition?
They are. It's the UEFA Menning, right? What's the format of that?
It's a tournament for national youth teams, and the Faroe Islands are up against Albania, San Marino, and Bosnia-Herzegovina this time around.
Wow, what a lineup. What an amazing opportunity for those young players.
It really is a chance to test themselves against players from other countries, experience different cultures, even build friendships that go beyond the football pitch.
It's incredible how sports can do that, bring people together. And speaking of positive developments, I heard there was some good news for borrowers in the Faroe Islands.
Oh, yes. Betri Banki, one of the main banks there, they just announced a cut to interest rates on loans.
That's fantastic. What's behind that decision?
Well, it looks like they're following the Danish central bank, which lowered its key interest rate recently. And given how closely tied the Faroes and Danish economies are, it makes sense that Betri Banki would follow suit.
A ripple effect, but in a good way. This could be a real boost for the Faroes economy.
Absolutely. Lower interest rates often encourage more borrowing and investment, which can lead to economic growth and job creation. Definitely something to celebrate.
I'll never say no to good news on the economic front. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From international conflicts and political controversies to heartwarming stories and those sporting triumphs. It's been quite a journey through the Faroe Islands.
It really has, and we've only just scratched the surface. Each one of these stories has so much more to it, so much depth waiting to be explored.
That's what I love about these deep dives. We get a glimpse into a different part of the world, pique our curiosity, and hopefully inspire you to learn even more.
Exactly. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deeper into the world around you.
And if you're ever looking for a fascinating place to explore, well, you know where to look. The Faroe Islands. Until next time.